করোনা সংক্রমণের হাত থেকে ছাত্রছাত্রীদেরকে বাঁচানোর জন্য রাজ্য সরকার অনলাইন ক্লাস এবং লাইভ ক্লাস করার ব্যবস্থা নিয়েছেন বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে। বিগত 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে শিক্ষা দপ্তর অনলাইনে ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করেছেন। আমি আশা করি তাতে রাজ্যের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা লাভান্বিত হয়েছেন। আর দ্বিতীয় 6 জুন থেকে বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে লাইভ ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করা। আমি আশা করি এই ক্লাসগুলো সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা অ্যাটেন্ড করবেন এবং তার সুফল রাজ্যের সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা এবং তার পরিবারের সদস্যরাও পেতে সক্ষম। আজকের এই পরিস্থিতিতে কোনোভাবেই রাজ্য সরকার ঝুঁকি নিয়ে ক্লাস বা স্কুল খোলার ব্যাপারে সিদ্ধান্ত নিতে সক্ষম নয় যতদিন পর্যন্ত না করোনা সংক্রমণের ভ্যাকসিন না আসে বা সোশ্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং মেনটেন করে ক্লাস চালানোর ব্যবস্থা না হয় ততদিন পর্যন্ত ক্লাসরুমে বসে ক্লাস করা সম্ভব নয়। তার জন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর এই সিদ্ধান্তগুলো নিয়েছেন। আমি আশা করি বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে যে লাইভ ক্লাস তার লাভ সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা পাবেন এবং নিজেকে সে মতো তৈরি করবেন।
করোনা সংক্রমণ রোধে রাজ্য সরকার বিদ্যালয়গুলিতে পঠন পাঠন বন্ধ রাখতে বাধ্য হয়েছে। এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিয়মিত শ্রেণী শিক্ষা অনুসরণ করতে অসমর্থ হচ্ছে। ফলে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের শিক্ষণ প্রক্রিয়ার সাথে সম্পৃক্ত রাখার লক্ষ্যে মাননীয় মুখ্যমন্ত্রীর অনুপ্রেরণায় ও মাননীয় শিক্ষামন্ত্রীর একান্ত আগ্রহে বিদ্যালয় শিক্ষা দপ্তর 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে বৈদ্যুতিন মাধ্যমগুলিতে এলিমেন্টারি এবং সেকেন্ডারি স্তরের ছাত্রছাত্রীদের জন্য অনলাইন ক্লাস শুরু করেছিল। পরবর্তী সময়ে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনলাইন ক্লাসের প্রতি আরও মনোযোগী করতে লাইভ ক্লাসও চালু করা হয়েছে, যাতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকাদের সঙ্গে সরাসরি কথা বলে তাদের কৌতূহল মিটিয়ে নিতে পারে। দপ্তর আশা করছে রাজ্যের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা এই লাইভ ক্লাস থেকে উপকৃত হবে। তাহলে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিশ্চয়ই তোমরা ক্লাসগুলিতে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। সকল অভিভাবক ও শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকাদের অনুরোধ করা হচ্ছে যে তারা যেন ছাত্রছাত্রীদের পূর্ব নির্ধারিত সূচি অনুযায়ী বৈদ্যুতিন মাধ্যমগুলিতে সরাসরি সম্প্রচারকৃত ক্লাসগুলি দেখে তার জন্য যথোপযুক্ত ব্যবস্থা গ্রহণ করেন। সবাই ঘরে থাকুন, সুস্থ থাকুন।
প্রিয় ছাত্রছাত্রী এবং অভিভাবকবৃন্দ, করোনার সংক্রমণের কারণে দীর্ঘদিন ধরে স্কুল বন্ধ রয়েছে, আমরা সবাই জানি। কিন্তু আমাদের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা যেন শিক্ষার সাথে যুক্ত থাকে সেজন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর বিভিন্ন কর্মসূচি গ্রহণ করেছে। গত 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে আমরা 3 মে পর্যন্ত 15 দিন কন্টিনিউ 13টা প্রাইভেট চ্যানেলে আমরা রেকর্ডিং অনলাইন ক্লাস করিয়েছি এবং পরবর্তী সময় 6 জুন থেকে শুরু হয়েছে, 15 জুন পর্যন্ত শেষ হয়েছে। 10টা প্রাইভেট চ্যানেল তারা অনলাইন ক্লাস নেওয়া হয়েছে এবং লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা ডাইরেক্ট টেলিকাস্ট করছে। এখন আবার 22 জুন থেকে শুরু হতে যাচ্ছে, 1 মাস ব্যাপী 22 জুলাই পর্যন্ত আবার শুরু হবে অনলাইন ক্লাস, লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট। শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা এতে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। আমি প্রত্যেক ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনুরোধ করব এই সময় যেন যাতে আমাদের শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা যা টেলিকাস্ট করছে সেটার সাথে যেন তারা ফলো করে, এটা আমি অনুরোধ করব। আর অভিভাবকদের অনুরোধ করব আপনারাও যেন আপনাদের সন্তানদের সঠিকভাবে যাতে লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট দেখতে পারে, অনলাইন ক্লাস দেখতে পারে, তার জন্য প্রয়োজনীয় ব্যবস্থা করবেন। পাশাপাশি কবে স্কুল খুলবে আমরা কিচ্ছু বলতে পারছি না, সেজন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর আপ্রাণ চেষ্টা করবে যে যতদিন স্কুল না খুলে ততদিন পর্যন্ত অনলাইন ক্লাসগুলি চালিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য। আশা করি এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা উপকৃত হবে। সবাইকে অনুরোধ করব এই বিষয়টা লক্ষ্য রাখার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ, নমস্কার। শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা এতে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। আমি প্রত্যেক ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনুরোধ করব এই সময় যেন যাতে আমাদের শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা যা টেলিকাস্ট করছে সেটার সাথে যেন তারা ফলো করে, এটা আমি অনুরোধ করব। আর অভিভাবকদের অনুরোধ করব আপনারাও যেন আপনাদের সন্তানদের সঠিকভাবে যাতে লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট দেখতে পারে, অনলাইন ক্লাস দেখতে পারে, তার জন্য প্রয়োজনীয় ব্যবস্থা করবেন। পাশাপাশি কবে স্কুল খুলবে আমরা কিচ্ছু বলতে পারছি না, সেজন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর আপ্রাণ চেষ্টা করবে যে যতদিন স্কুল না খুলে ততদিন পর্যন্ত অনলাইন ক্লাসগুলি চালিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য। আশা করি এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা উপকৃত হবে। সবাইকে অনুরোধ করব এই বিষয়টা লক্ষ্য রাখার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ, নমস্কার।
নমস্কার, সকলকে জানাই ৭৪তম স্বাধীনতা দিবসের আন্তরিক প্রীতি, অভিনন্দন ও শুভেচ্ছা। আশা করি সকল ছাত্রছাত্রীরা একদম প্রস্তুত আজকের দিনের পুরো লাইভ অনলাইন ক্লাস ফলো করার জন্য। তবে আমি আর দেরি করব না, তোমরা এখনই তোমাদের সামনে স্যার তোমাদের দশম শ্রেণীর বায়োলজি নিয়ে আলোচনা করবে। তোমরা আশা করি তোমরা পুরো ক্লাস মনোযোগ সহকারে শুনবে। তবে আজ তোমাদের সামনে আলোচনা করবে শিক্ষক সৌরভ চক্রবর্তী। তবে আশা করি স্যারের পুরো ক্লাস তোমরা মনোযোগ সহকারে শুনবে। ঠিক আছে স্যার, আপনি আপনার মতন করে শুরু করতে পারেন।
Thank you. Good evening, students. PGT Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya. I also appeared on 9th August and taught you about the autotrophic nutrition on the chapter life process. Today I will continue the leftover part of that chapter, which is actually we were discussing about different parameters to prove that different things are required, or different factors like water or chlorophyll and the light is required for photosynthesis. One of the factors which was left out was carbon dioxide. So today first I will discuss this topic, that to prove how you will prove that carbon dioxide is required for photosynthesis. And it is a well known fact that without carbon dioxide photosynthesis doesn't occur. But how will you prove it? So a very simple experiment. You had been doing discharging of the plants, then boiling it alcohol and putting in iodine to prove that chlorophyll is required for photosynthesis, to prove that light is required for photosynthesis. But here today we will discuss how to prove that carbon dioxide is an important requisite for the process of photosynthesis. What we will do? First thing is that, just like earlier experiments, first you have to take a potted plant. Okay, this potted plant, in fact we have to take two sets of, actually one pair of potted plants which are similar in various aspects, for example age, growth and other aspects. Then what we will do is that we will discharge both the plants, you know, by putting it in darkness for say 24 hours, and after that what we will do is that we will put both the pots in separate bell jar. That means essentially it is a glass jar, and there we will allow the sunlight to pass through. Okay, in both the case sunlight will be there and allow these plants to do photosynthesis. Then what will happen, in one jar, you must note, in one jar there is a chemical which is kept, which is called as the potassium hydroxide, KOH, and you must understand this KOH, what is its speciality? It is a scavenger of carbon dioxide. That means if you put this KOH in the air, it will actually absorb all the carbon dioxide from the air. So in the bell jar, air is there, of course, here also air is there, but in this arrangement there is no KOH. In this arrangement there is KOH. This is the difference between these two. Now what you do, now when you allow it to do photosynthesis, then you will see that you will keep it say 2-3 hours, then after that we will plug leaf from both the sets, means one in which KOH was there, in another there was no KOH. Now what you see is that first you will take both the separate leaves, okay, fine, here from here leaf taken, then you boil as I told you earlier in alcohol, then after that, after you boil it in alcohol, then you remove, that will remove all the chlorophyll, fine, then the leaf will appear pale yellow as I have told earlier. Then what you do, then you put both the leaves to the iodine solution, in iodine solution, then what you will see, the result is that the one in which KOH was there, that leaf actually doesn't turn blue black. So it doesn't turn blue black, here it turns blue black. Now you may wonder what is the reason why this has happened. Now the logic is that, as I told you earlier, KOH is a scavenger of carbon dioxide, means it absorbs all the carbon dioxide. So all the carbon dioxide which was there in this bell jar was actually absorbed. So essentially, although the plant got everything, water, sunlight and other things, but it didn't get the carbon dioxide. Now what happens, in absence of carbon dioxide there was no photosynthesis. What is the proof? The proof is that when you put it in iodine solution after doing this earlier processes, then you find that there is no blue black color. That means there is no starch. That is why there is negative test for starch, means no photosynthesis has occurred. Instead, here what you find, here you see that there is blue black color. That means there is formation of starch. And why there is formation of starch? Because every parameter which was required was provided to the plant, because there was no KOH to absorb it, to absorb the carbon dioxide. So the plant could do photosynthesis, the leaves could do photosynthesis, but here the plant could not do it. This is the proof that carbon dioxide is an important requisite, it is a very important component which is required for the process of photosynthesis. Now and naturally a question comes, how do the plants actually take the carbon dioxide from, where from they take it? You know it, they take it from air, but through which process, through which organs or which tissues or what parts? Actually, although gaseous exchange in plants occur through different parts, but it mainly occurs through tiny openings in the leaves which are called as stomata. That is, I am again drawing here. A stomata is essentially, there are two types of stomata, but most of the dicot plants have stomata which is actually kidney shaped, a kidney shaped actually structure, in which there are two cells, pair of cells. These are called as guard cell. Guard cells. These guard cells actually are covered by another set of cells which are called as subsidiary cells. These are called subsidiary cells, and there are guard cells. Now, what is interesting about these guard cells? This pair of guard cells, actually they are thickening inside and outside. The thickening of the guard cells are not same. Means it is more thick in the outer rim, it is thinner in the inner rim. Then what happens? Then these differential thickening, and due to some other processes, for example osmosis, there is opening and closing of stomata. How this happens? Suppose there is in these guard cells, in the daytime when there is photosynthesis, then or when there is a solute concentration is high, or there is entry of different type of ions like potassium ions, then because of high concentration of potassium ions, you have studied in class 9 that from this water moves from a place of higher concentration to a place of lower concentration, that is called osmosis. So water will move from here to these guard cells. When the water enters inside in both the ways, then actually these bulges the guard cell and which creates a pressure, so that inside there opening is created and that a lip is opened, and that leads to opening of the interior of the plant, interior of the tissue, and through this carbon dioxide and enters, oxygen can enter, also oxygen can get out. So gaseous exchange occurs through this stomata, and due to this difference in the opening and closing of stomata, there is actually a very substantial amount of exchange of gases, and these gases actually, or essentially this carbon dioxide which enters through stomata, helps in the process of photosynthesis. So with this part ends, that is our part of autotrophic nutrition ends. Now I will go to the next part, that is heterotrophic nutrition. I will start this topic. Already I have introduced the matter to you. Now just I will go in some more details of the whole process. You know, heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition. Now what is this? You know, already know, in which the organisms depend on other organisms for their food. They cannot make their own food, they cannot synthesize the carbohydrates just like the plants or autotrophs. So you know, there are three modes of nutrition, already I have told. What are they? These are holozoic mode of nutrition, parasitic mode of nutrition, saprotrophic mode of nutrition. Now already I have given some ideas about these three modes of nutrition. Now since in your syllabus there is some more discussion about this holozoic mode of nutrition, let me discuss it in some more detail. First, holozoic, as I told you earlier, that means the process of complete nutrition, because the word holo means complete, I told you. Now what are the processes which are involved in holozoic nutrition? The first process is ingestion. Ingestion, that means when you take food, suppose I am a human being, I take food with my hands, okay, I put it in my mouth, that is simply called ingestion. Okay, then amoeba, suppose it is engulfing through its pseudopodia, that process will be called ingestion for amoeba. Then next will be the digestion. Digestion is what? You break the complex molecules, that is large chunks of food, into small soluble form, that is called digestion. Already I also told something in my last class about digestion. Then after that what comes? There comes the absorption. Suppose you have digested your food, then it is taken in blood. From the blood it will be absorbed to the different cells. So this is absorption. Then there is assimilation. Assimilation means after the absorption in the cell, these nutrients needs to be used up by the body for different processes. These processes are collectively called as assimilation process, through which you actually utilize, or the cells utilize, the different sources of nutrients or different nutrients for various activities. And the last process is to throw out the undigested waste. Don't confuse excretion with egestion. Often children actually think both are same process. Excretion means a metabolic waste. For example, carbon dioxide is excretory waste of respiration. We will come on later about this. But say stool is a egestionary waste. It is not a excretory waste. But again, urine is a excretory waste. What is the difference? Urine is formed by different reaction as a byproduct, but stool is what? Just the leftover substances which could not be worked out by body or which could not be digested by the body. These are called the egestionary products. So the last process is egestion. So these are the few steps which actually are fully present in a Holozoic nutrition. Now, Holozoic nutrition, is it present only in higher organism? Not essentially. It may be present in lower organism like amoeba. You will study about the nutritional process in amoeba, and you will also study about the nutritional process of human beings, essentially digestion. Okay, but remember, both of the process in both these examples are Holozoic mode of nutrition. You may ask, why sir? Why you call both of them Holozoic? One is amoeba, one is human being, far apart. But actually you can see, as I told you, all these steps are of the nutrition are present in both amoeba and human beings. That is why you call it both the cases as Holozoic mode of nutrition. Okay. Now let us come to this amoeba. In amoeba, what is the nutrition process? Let us see. For that we have to understand what happens actually during the digestion process of amoeba. First, you must know that amoeba is a unicellular organism. It is having only one cell. Okay, and so all the digestion process occurs inside the cell. So such type of digestion in which inside the cell all digestion occurs, this is called intracellular digestion. Intra means inside, cellular means inside the cells. So what happens in amoeba? Suppose this is an amoeba, it doesn't have any defined structure, it doesn't have, the nucleus is there. Suppose it encounters a food particle there, then it will throw its processing. That process is called, you know, pseudopodia. This pseudopodia is what? A temporary process which is formed in the body due to cytoplasmic streaming, and that helps the amoeba to engulf the food. So what is it doing actually through pseudopodia? It is actually doing the process of ingestion, the first process. Then what it will do after it has ingested it, then it will just do one thing, that is it will incorporate it inside its body. That means it will becomes a part of its cell. Then this is the food is inside it. So this is called food vacuole. This is called food vacuole. Then there is, this is the nucleus, fine, but another thing is there inside which helps the digestion of this food vacuole. What happens? The next process, this is ingestion, then there will be digestion. How does digestion occur? Suppose this is the nucleus, then this is the food vacuole which is there, this food vacuole, but there is another process, another thing here which is called as lysosome. This is lysosome, means it is a digestive vacuole. It is a vacuole which contains lysozymes. Lysozyme means some digestive enzymes. What is their function? Their function is to digest the food items. How they will digest? Now actually these two, that is food vacuole which I told here, and this is lysosome containing lysozymes. These two will fuse. What will happen? They two will become one. So these two has fused together. When they have fused together, they will, these lysosomes, that is which is inside which, what is there? Lysozymes. These lysozymes will digest, that means they will break the food particles into simpler forms, so much smaller that they will diffuse out. That means this now inside the, suppose the inside the amoeba, this actually vacuole was there in which digestion has occurred, then the digested food will just be absorbed to the whole body. It will become the part of the whole body. So this is what? This is called as absorption. This is the process. And after absorption, you will have again a process which is called as assimilation. What is this assimilation? Assimilation means here the items which has been absorbed, that will be used by the body to run the life process. That is assimilation. But what happens to the undigested items? These undigested items in the last resort are actually thrown out of the body, that is thrown out of the cell amoeba, and this process is called exocytosis. This exocytosis means to throw something out of the body. Endocytosis means to incorporate inside. So through the process of exocytosis, it will actually remove the excretory waste. So this is basically a process of egestion. So you have the complete process here. What is that? First one was the ingestion, then there is the digestion, then there is the assimilation, absorption, then there is assimilation, then afterward egestion. So all the 5 steps which I told you, which are a part which should be there in a holozoic nutrition, is there in nutrition of amoeba. So it shows an example of holozoic nutrition. At the same time it shows what? A system of intracellular digestion, that is digestion occurs inside the cells. Now this actually gives you an idea about how the intracellular digestion, at the same time holozoic nutrition occurs. Okay. Now we see that in higher organisms, say human beings, the process is much more complex. Here you will see that there is actually millions of cells. There are millions of cells in your body. Then how does this digestion occur? And what is the nature of the digestion? The nature of the nutrition is holozoic, but how does digestion and other process, what are the differences in details if you compare it with amoeba? Now first thing, in human beings, you have to understand how digestion in human being occurs. For that we have to understand the body plan of human beings. Body plan means how a human being is made up of. If you see the structure of a human being, suppose this is the body of, say, a human being. Suppose this is a body and there is a digestive tract inside. So what is mouth and other digestive tract? So what is this? This is essentially, this you can think as a tube. This also is a tube. So you can see, you can say that it is like a tube inside a tube. What is this? This is the digestive tract, gut, starting from the mouth to the anus. So this is a tube, and then this is a broader tube. So you can say the body plan is tube inside a tube. Okay. Now where are the cells? Remember, from the mouth to anus, this is actually a space. Inside there are no cells. So but where does digestion occur? In the stomach. Suppose somewhere in this tube there is stomach. Stomach is there. You can see in this diagram. You can see in this diagram. You can see here, this is a digestive tract. Fine. Then there is stomach. Then it continues. Then after that it comes out and it opens up through the anus. Now this is what? This is essentially a tube, and this is another tube. So digestion suppose occurring in stomach. So stomach is actually inside the body but outside the cell. So such type of digestion which occurs outside the cells are said to be extracellular digestion. This is called as extracellular digestion. So digestion in human beings is extracellular digestion. Now this extracellular digestion, how it starts, what happens, let us see the details. For that you have to understand the anatomy of the human digestive system a little bit. You can see here, there is a mouth. We have a mouth, and mouth is technically called as buccal cavity. Buccal cavity, it is the mouth. And what is there inside our mouth? There is teeth. Now many people think that digestive system is something which starts from only stomach and intestine. Not so actually. It starts itself from the buccal cavity, because the organ in which you will first put your food, that is the buccal cavity, that is the mouth, and inside the mouth you have teeth. This teeth is actually a very important part of your digestive system. And why? What this teeth does? It helps us to chew our food properly. First thing, it primarily breaks the large pieces of food into small segments. Fine. Then after that it mixes it with the water, that is of the mouth. We say water of the mouth. Essentially it is not just water, it is called saliva. In the mouth there is a secretion which is called saliva. Now what is this saliva made up of? It is made up of mucus. It is made up of water, and there is a very important enzyme which is called salivary amylase. It is called salivary amylase. What is an enzyme? An enzyme is a chemical substance which helps in increasing or decreasing the rate of chemical reaction. So an important enzyme which helps in the digestion process or starting of the digestion is salivary amylase. Where from it comes? It comes from a gland, or rather I can say 3 pairs of glands are there, which are collectively called as salivary glands. These are called salivary glands. These salivary glands actually produce what you called as saliva, which is essentially a mixture of mucus, water and salivary amylase. Now what is its function? First thing is that it actually uniformly provides moisture to the food, helps it to mix properly. But most importantly, the salivary amylase is the enzyme which initiates or starts the process of digestion. How it starts the process of digestion? How do you know that it actually starts the process and what it produces? Actually, salivary amylase actually converts this starch into a sugar which is called maltose. This is a sugar which is called maltose. So when you take a carbohydrate, that carbohydrate is essentially starch mostly, it breaks it into maltose. Then once it breaks it into maltose, then further digestive process occurs. So remember that starch is a carbohydrate. So all the other food items which are there is not actually worked upon with the starting. So this starch changes into maltose. Then this leads to some changes in the food. But how do you know that the starch has been converted to maltose? It is no more there. That we can understand by the coming set of the experiments. So we will go to these experiments when we actually start the process again. But before that, let me draw some diagrams.
স্যার মাঝখানে আমি একটা কথা বলছি।
আচ্ছা,
ছাত্রছাত্রীরা তোমরা আশা করি স্যার আজকে বায়োলজির যে টপিকটা নিয়ে আলোচনা করছে সেটার ক্ষেত্রে তোমরা বুঝেছো, এবং যারা বুঝোনি তারা নিশ্চয়ই ফোন করতে পারবে। তাহলে আর দেরি না করে টিভি স্ক্রিনে যে নম্বরটা আছে 8258936928 এই নম্বরে তোমরা সরাসরি ফোন করতে পারো এবং স্যারের সাথে ডিসকাস করতে পারো। এবং বায়োলজির ক্ষেত্রে যদি কোনো ক্ষেত্রে অসুবিধা হয়ে থাকে তাহলে নিশ্চয়ই স্যার তোমাদের সাহায্য করবে। তবে বলতে বলতে একটা ফোন এসেছে, দুঃখিত ফোন ডিসকানেক্ট হয়ে গিয়েছে। তবে আশা করি তোমরা আজ ফোন করবে এবং স্যারের সাথে ডিসকাস করবে বায়োলজির কোনো ক্ষেত্রে টপিক নিয়ে। স্যার আপনি শুরু করতে পারেন আবার।
I hope they will call you. If you have no calls, I think that you are clear about the matter. So I will resume my classes. I will resume the topic which I was discussing, that starch is converted to maltose. Now how do you know? Very simple experiment. Suppose you can do it in your home also. If you have certain things. Suppose you take two test tubes. In both of them you take some water, okay, fine, and water is there, H2O. Then you put some boiled rice. What you put there? Some boiled rice. In both the cases you have boiled rice. Here also boiled rice. I am not repeating, I am just briefing it. Boiled rice. Now in one of the test tube, apart from these two items, you should put some saliva. So here suppose I have put some saliva. Well, from where you will get it? From your mouth. So there you put some saliva, there is boiled rice, and water, there is no saliva. Keep it for some time. After that you add, in both the test tubes you add some drops of iodine. Here also you put some drops of iodine. So what you have put? Iodine both the cases. Now what will happen? Boiled rice contains what? You know it, starch. Here I have told you put saliva, but there is a better experiment which you can do. don't put saliva. You do one thing. You have boiled rice. Before putting it, you chew it. That means you chew. You chew the boiled rice first, then put it there. So you have chewed boiled rice. Why I called saliva earlier? Because when you chew it, you are adding saliva to it. So there I was telling directly you put it, but better if you chew it and then put the rice there, actually there will be saliva inside it. Then what will happen? If you put iodine solution in both the cases, here there is chewed, here there is unchewed boiled rice, no chewing. Then what will happen? Here you will find that this boiled rice contains what? Starch. Starch in class 9 you have studied, plus iodine which you have given, gives what color? It gives blue black color, that you have seen also in the autotropic nutrition while doing photosynthetic experiments. It turns blue black if starch is present. But here when you have just put the iodine solution, unchewed rice, then this blue black color, does it appear? Yes, it appears here. Why? Because you have not chewed it, so it turns blue black. So and here what is happening? Chewed boiled rice, then iodine, then you see that there is no blue black color. Now you may wonder why not here? What has happened? Here I have put boiled rice, here also boiled rice, only here I have chewed it, here I have not chewed it. Why? What makes the difference? The difference is that when you chew it, you have added the actually saliva. This saliva contains salivary amylase. This salivary amylase has converted the starch into maltose, which is a what? It has converted into a sugar. I am telling maltose, I am telling sugar, you may be confused, but remember that maltose and sugar is general name. Suppose your name is Ram, that is your general name, but if I tell you that is your specific name, but if I tell you boy, that is a general name. So a group of carbohydrates, we call it sugar. One specific example of sugar is maltose. So specifically starch is converted to maltose, and once maltose is produced, then there is no blue black color, because your iodine is there, but before the iodine works, all the starch has been converted to this maltose. So maltose doesn't give blue black color. So the negative test shows that the salivary amylase or the saliva actually can convert the starch into sugar. Here also the same thing, but since there is no chewing, so there is no salivary amylase, so iodine gives blue black color because the starch is remaining as starch, it has not changed. So this is the concept. So this shows that at the very first step of the digestion, of while putting in mouth, after chewing it, some digestion has occurred. So remember, if somebody says where digestion first starts, not in the stomach, it starts in the mouth itself. But does each and every aspect of food is digested in the mouth? No, just the initiation, starting. So it is so carbohydrates, mainly the starch, the first step is converted to maltose or sugar along with other items. You don't eat only carbohydrates, you take meat, you take pulses, you take proteins, you take vitamins, you take different type of minerals. Now the proteins, fats, these are not digested in the mouth, so they will form a bolus or a mixture along with the semi digested carbohydrate, and then they will move downwards, that is through a long pipe. You can see this long pipe is called as esophagus. What is this esophagus? This esophagus is simply the pipe which connects the mouth to the stomach. This pipe like structure is called as esophagus. Now this esophagus is not a rigid structure, it is something very elastic and it has got some movement in it. So how this is helpful to you? Suppose if somebody puts a steel pipe from your mouth to the stomach, so you can't survive. Why? Because this esophagus shows a special type of movement which is called as peristalsis. S-T-A-L-S-I-S. This is peristalsis. Peristalsis means rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the esophagus. What is the benefit? Then the food, the semi digested food will actually move down from your mouth to the stomach through the process of peristalsis. Now one question comes, what will happen, sir, if the movement or the direction is opposite of the muscles which are contracting, if they just contract and relax in different direction, in opposite direction, then what will happen? That process which you have told is called as antiperistalsis, and that is the reason why vomiting occurs. Sometimes you may see that you feel to vomit because of different physiological conditions. What happens that sometimes these muscles of this esophagus just contract in a opposite direction, the muscles, then it actually returns back the food to the outside, it throws it to the outside. That is not a normal condition. Okay, so that shows, that event shows the importance of the peristaltic movement. Okay, now our journey of the food actually has reached to the stomach. Now what is the stomach? Remember, the stomach is a very important organ, very important component of your digestive system. Now what is its shape? Everybody knows it. It is like a J-shaped organ. It is a J-shaped structure which is essentially a bag, like structure, and it is also contractile and relaxed style in nature. That means to say, if you are just if you stretch it, it will be enlarged. So when food enters inside the stomach, it enlarges. So we say that it is also a place where food is temporarily stored for some hours, but more than that, it has very important role, more important function, because the initiation of the protein digestion is started in the stomach. Now this stomach, say here you have, what is there? There is food is there. Now what is there in this which helps to digest food? Inside it there are certain cells. In fact, it has three type of cells which are called as, it has a gland. We have a gland which is called gastric gland. These gastric glands are what? Any gland is just collection of different type of cells. What they do? They have three types of cells inside this gastric glands. One is called the goblet cell. Goblet cells. Then there is the parietal cell, and there are another type of cells, that is chief cell. Three type of cells are found. What they do? Actually, goblet cells start secreting mucus from the this gland, gastric gland. They secrete mucus. Parietal cell, or also called oxantic cells, they actually secrete a very corrosive acid which is called HCl, hydrochloric acid. You must know that hydrochloric, somebody of you might be studying in chemistry, that hydrochloric acid is a very strong acid, but interestingly it is found in our stomach itself. Then there are chief cells which produces a enzyme which is called pepsin. It is called pepsin. Now what are their functions? What is the function of this HCl here? Because we are living organisms, such a corrosive acid is there. Now actually this hydrochloric acid is not an enzyme, but it is an activator of the digestive process. First thing, it will kill all the pathogens, if any, in the food, any pathogen or harmful substance. So it has a protective function. Next important thing is that this HCl provides a acidic medium. Acidic medium. Now what is acidic medium? HCl means its pH is 1 or 2, that means highly acidic. Now there are those enzymes which digest your food in the stomach, they work best in acidic environment. So HCl actually helps in the creation of the digestive environment, that means for the digestion of the substances. Then what it does, it doesn't digest directly, but it helps in actually activating another digestive enzyme which I told you is secreted by chief cell. It actually digests the actually doesn't digest, it actually activates the pepsin to an it is actually, I told wrong, it is pepsinogen, the inactive form. So HCl, what it does, it actually converts it into pepsin. So pepsinogen is the inactive form of the enzyme, so it activates it into pepsin. So once these things, so once pepsin is actually activated, it digests the proteins into simpler forms. Okay, then you may ask, what is the function of these goblet cells? These goblet cells actually gives the stomach a protection. Suppose you are not taking food, so if the goblet cells are not there, then all the acid will attack your stomach wall and actually digest the wall itself, so it gives the protection. So these are the functions of the stomach. Okay, so with this I will today summarize the things what I have studied today, and next class we will discuss about the intestinal process. Here today I have told a part of the autotrophic process, and then I told about the heterotrophic nutrition, after that the digestion of the amoeba, and I concluded with digestive process in the human beings, which is still not complete. In the next class we will see how digestion occurs through the intestine. Thank you. I suppose that you have enjoyed the class, and please study your books properly and try to correlate with the lecture. Thank you. Stay safe, stay happy, and enjoy Independence Day. Thank you.
আশা করি স্যার আজকে বায়োলজির যে টপিকটা নিয়ে খুব সুন্দরভাবে আলোচনা করেছে তোমাদের সামনে, আশা করি তোমরা খুব ভালো করে বুঝেছো। তবে আজ এখানে শেষ করতে হচ্ছে, তবে যাওয়ার আগে নিশ্চয়ই স্বাধীনতা দিবস উপলক্ষে সকলকে জানাই এবং রাজ্যবাসীর পাশাপাশি আমাদের মৃণালিনী এনএনের দর্শকদাতা ও বিজ্ঞাপনদাতাদের জানাই আন্তরিক প্রীতি, অভিনন্দন ও শুভেচ্ছা। তবে আজ এখানে এতটুকুই। এতক্ষণ বাড়িতে থাকুন, সুস্থ থাকুন এবং দেখতে থাকুন মৃণালিনী এনএন। নমস্কার।
করোনা সংক্রমণের হাত থেকে ছাত্রছাত্রীদেরকে বাঁচানোর জন্য রাজ্য সরকার অনলাইন ক্লাস এবং লাইভ ক্লাস করার ব্যবস্থা নিয়েছেন বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে। বিগত 19শে এপ্রিল থেকে শিক্ষা দপ্তর অনলাইনে ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করেছেন। আমি আশা করি তাতে রাজ্যের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা লাভান্বিত হয়েছেন। আর দ্বিতীয় 6 জুন থেকে বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে লাইভ ক্লাসের ব্যবস্থা করা। আমি আশা করি এই ক্লাসগুলো সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা অ্যাটেন্ড করবেন এবং তার সুফল রাজ্যের সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা এবং তার পরিবারের সদস্যরাও পেতে সক্ষম। আজকের এই পরিস্থিতিতে কোনোভাবেই রাজ্য সরকার ঝুঁকি নিয়ে ক্লাস বা স্কুল খোলার ব্যাপারে সিদ্ধান্ত নিতে সক্ষম নয় যতদিন পর্যন্ত না করোনা সংক্রমণের ভ্যাকসিন না আসে বা সোশ্যাল ডিস্টেন্সিং মেনটেন করে ক্লাস চালানোর ব্যবস্থা না হয় ততদিন পর্যন্ত ক্লাসরুমে বসে ক্লাস করা সম্ভব নয়। তার জন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর এই সিদ্ধান্তগুলো নিয়েছেন। আমি আশা করি বৈদ্যুতিক চ্যানেলের মাধ্যমে যে লাইভ ক্লাস, তার লাভ সমস্ত ছাত্রছাত্রীরা পাবেন এবং নিজেকে সে মতো তৈরি করবেন।
করোনা সংক্রমণ রোধে রাজ্য সরকার বিদ্যালয়গুলিতে পঠন পাঠন বন্ধ রাখতে বাধ্য হয়েছে। এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিয়মিত শ্রেণী শিক্ষা অনুসরণ করতে অসমর্থ হচ্ছে। ফলে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের শিক্ষণ প্রক্রিয়ার সাথে সম্পৃক্ত রাখার লক্ষ্যে মাননীয় মুখ্যমন্ত্রীর অনুপ্রেরণায় ও মাননীয় শিক্ষামন্ত্রীর একান্ত আগ্রহে বিদ্যালয় শিক্ষা দপ্তর 19 এপ্রিল থেকে বৈদ্যুতিন মাধ্যমগুলিতে এলিমেন্টারি এবং সেকেন্ডারি স্তরের ছাত্রছাত্রীদের জন্য অনলাইন ক্লাস শুরু করেছিল। পরবর্তী সময়ে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনলাইন ক্লাসের প্রতি আরও মনোযোগী করতে লাইভ ক্লাসও চালু করা হয়েছে, যাতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকাদের সঙ্গে সরাসরি কথা বলে তাদের কৌতূহল মিটিয়ে নিতে পারে। দপ্তর আশা করছে রাজ্যের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা এই লাইভ ক্লাস থেকে উপকৃত হবে। তাহলে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নিশ্চয়ই তোমরা ক্লাসগুলিতে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। সকল অভিভাবক ও শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকাদের অনুরোধ করা হচ্ছে যে তারা যেন ছাত্রছাত্রীদের পূর্ব নির্ধারিত সূচি অনুযায়ী বৈদ্যুতিন মাধ্যমগুলিতে সরাসরি সম্প্রচারকৃত ক্লাসগুলি দেখে তার জন্য যথোপযুক্ত ব্যবস্থা গ্রহণ করেন। সবাই ঘরে থাকুন, সুস্থ থাকুন।
প্রিয় ছাত্রছাত্রী এবং অভিভাবকবৃন্দ, করোনার সংক্রমণের কারণে দীর্ঘদিন ধরে স্কুল বন্ধ রয়েছে, আমরা সবাই জানি। কিন্তু আমাদের ছাত্রছাত্রীরা যেন শিক্ষার সাথে যুক্ত থাকে সেজন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর বিভিন্ন কর্মসূচি গ্রহণ করেছে। গত 19 এপ্রিল থেকে আমরা 3 মে পর্যন্ত 15 দিন কন্টিনিউ 13টা প্রাইভেট চ্যানেলে আমরা রেকর্ডিং অনলাইন ক্লাস করিয়েছি এবং পরবর্তী সময় 6 জুন থেকে শুরু হয়েছে, 15 জুন পর্যন্ত শেষ হয়েছে। 10টা প্রাইভেট চ্যানেল তারা অনলাইন ক্লাস নেওয়া হয়েছে এবং লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট, শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা ডাইরেক্ট টেলিকাস্ট করছে। এখন আবার 22 জুন থেকে শুরু হতে যাচ্ছে, 1 মাস ব্যাপী 22 জুলাই পর্যন্ত আবার শুরু হবে অনলাইন ক্লাস, লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট। শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা এতে অংশগ্রহণ করবে। আমি প্রত্যেক ছাত্রছাত্রীদের অনুরোধ করব এই সময় যেন যাতে আমাদের শিক্ষক শিক্ষিকারা যা টেলিকাস্ট করছে সেটার সাথে যেন তারা ফলো করে, এটা আমি অনুরোধ করব। আর অভিভাবকদের অনুরোধ করব, আপনারাও যেন আপনাদের সন্তানদের সঠিকভাবে যাতে লাইভ টেলিকাস্ট দেখতে পারে, অনলাইন ক্লাস দেখতে পারে, তার জন্য প্রয়োজনীয় ব্যবস্থা করবেন। পাশাপাশি কবে স্কুল খুলবে আমরা কিচ্ছু বলতে পারছি না, সেজন্য শিক্ষা দপ্তর আপ্রাণ চেষ্টা করবে যে যতদিন স্কুল না খুলে ততদিন পর্যন্ত অনলাইন ক্লাসগুলি চালিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য। আশা করি এতে ছাত্রছাত্রীরা উপকৃত হবে। সবাইকে অনুরোধ করব এই বিষয়টা লক্ষ্য রাখার জন্য। ধন্যবাদ, নমস্কার।